The morning sun hadn't even come up yet when Lisa's alarm went off. She groaned, hitting the snooze button with her tired hand. 5:30 in the morning. Another day, another double shift. She dragged herself out of bed and looked at her reflection in the small mirror hanging on the wall. Dark circles under her eyes, hair that needed a good wash, and a tiredness that seemed to go all the way down to her bones, but she couldn't afford to feel sorry for herself. Not today. Not any day, really. Lisa pulled on her uniform, a simple white shirt and black pants, and headed out into the cold morning air. The bus ride to work took 40 minutes, and she spent most of it staring out the window, watching the city wake up around her. Rich people in their fancy cars driving to their office jobs. Students with their backpacks probably heading to universities she could only dream about now. She used to be one of them. Not the rich people, but the students. The ones with dreams and hopes and a future that looked bright. The Grand Meridian restaurant stood tall and proud in the heart of the city's most expensive district. Its golden letters sparkled in the morning light, and the doorman, dressed better than most people on their wedding day, stood guard at the entrance. Lisa went around to the back door, the one marked staff only, and clocked in for her shift. "Morning, Lisa," called out Tony from the kitchen. He was already sweating over the stove preparing the breakfast dishes. "Morning," she replied, tying her apron around her waist. The Grand Meridian wasn't just any restaurant. It was the restaurant. The kind of place where presidents ate dinner, where movie stars celebrated their birthdays, where business deals worth millions happened over plates of food that cost more than Lisa's weekly rent. The main dining hall was something out of a fairy tale. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling like frozen waterfalls. The tables were made of real marble, polished so well you could see your reflection in them. Velvet curtains framed the tall windows, and fresh flowers, replaced every single day, decorated every corner. But the centerpiece, the thing that caught everyone's eye when they walked in, was the grand piano. It sat right in the middle of the hall, black and shiny like a sleeping giant. A Steinway, her manager had told her once. Worth more money than Lisa would make in 10 years of working here. Maybe 20 years. Every time Lisa walked past that piano, something inside her chest ached. It was a feeling she couldn't quite describe, like homesickness, but for a life she used to have instead of a place. She remembered the first time she'd seen it. 3 years ago, when she'd interviewed for this job, her hands had actually trembled. She'd had to clench them into fists to stop herself from reaching out and touching the keys. "Don't even think about it," her manager, Mr. Chen, had said, but not unkindly. "That piano is for professional performances only. We hire concert pianists for special events." Lisa had nodded, swallowing hard, pushing down all the words that wanted to come out. Words like, "I could play it," or "I used to perform too," or "I know that piano better than I know my own face." But she'd said nothing, because people didn't hire waitresses who used to be pianists. They hired waitresses who smiled and took orders and didn't complain about sore feet or rude customers. Now, 3 years later, Lisa was one of the senior waitresses. She knew the menu by heart, could carry 6 plates at once, and had mastered the art of being invisible until someone needed something. The perfect servant. Her morning shift was always busy. Businessmen came in for power breakfasts, ordering egg white omelets and black coffee, barely looking up from their phones long enough to say please or thank you. Lisa smiled, wrote down their orders, and tried not to think about how much money they probably made in an hour compared to what she made in a week. By noon, her feet already hurt. By 2 in the afternoon, she had a headache. But she couldn't take a break yet. The lunch rush was just starting, and Mr. Chen needed all hands on deck. "Table 7 needs water," he called out, his voice sharp with stress. "On it," Lisa replied, grabbing a pitcher. During her brief 15-minute break at 3, Lisa sat in the staff room, her feet screaming with relief as she took off her shoes. She rubbed her ankles and ate the sandwich she'd brought from home, the same sandwich she ate every day. Peanut butter and jelly, cheap, filling, boring. Maria, another waitress, sat down next to her. "Long day? Aren't they all?" Lisa said with a tired smile. "True. Hey, did you hear? There's some big charity event tonight. Gonna be packed. Mr. Chen's offering overtime pay if we stay." Lisa's heart sank. She was already scheduled for a double shift. Adding the evening event meant she wouldn't get home until midnight. But overtime pay? She needed that. Her mom's medication didn't pay for itself. Yeah, I'll stay, she said. Maria nodded approvingly. Good, we need the money, right? That's why we're all here. As they headed back to work, Lisa passed by the piano again. She let her fingers trail along its smooth surface just for a second. The cool wood felt familiar under her fingertips, like greeting an old friend you haven't seen in years. She remembered her college days. The practice rooms where she'd spend 8, 9, 10 hours a day. The recitals where she'd pour her heart into every note. The scholarship letter that had come in the mail, offering her a full ride to one of the best music schools in the country. She remembered her professor's words. You have a gift. Don't waste it. But then Mom got sick. Really sick. Cancer, stage 3. The bills started piling up faster than snow in winter. Someone had to work. Someone had to pay for treatments, for medicine, for all the things insurance didn't cover. Her younger brother was still in high school. Her dad had left years ago. It was just Lisa and her mom. The choice hadn't really been a choice at all. She'd withdrawn from school, packed up her tiny dorm room, and come home. At first, she'd told herself it was temporary. Just a year, maybe 2. Just until Mom got better. But 3 years had passed. Mom was in remission now, thank God, but the debt remained. Mountains of it. And Lisa's hands, once trained to play Chopin and Rachmaninoff, now carried heavy trays and scrubbed dirty dishes. Sometimes late at night, she'd sit at the old keyboard in their apartment. A cheap electric one she'd bought at a garage sale. She'd play with headphones on so she wouldn't wake her mom, but it wasn't the same. It would never be the same. The afternoon dragged on. More customers, more orders, more fake smiles. Lisa's headache got worse, but she pushed through. She always pushed through. By the time the evening shift started, the restaurant began transforming. Extra tables were set up. The lighting was adjusted to be more dramatic. Staff members rushed around, making sure everything was perfect for the charity gala. Lisa changed into the fancier uniform, a black dress with the restaurant's logo embroidered on it. She checked her hair in the bathroom mirror, pinned back any loose strands, and took a deep breath. You can do this, she whispered to her reflection. Just a few more hours. But as she walked back into that dining hall, past that beautiful piano sitting silent and unused, Lisa had no idea that tonight would change everything. That in just a few hours her carefully built walls would come crashing down, and the person she used to be would collide with the person she'd become. The evening was about to begin, and with it, a moment that would turn her entire world upside down. The evening crowd started arriving around 7. Lisa watched from her station as expensive cars pulled up outside. Bentleys, Mercedes, even a Rolls-Royce. Men in tailored suits and women in designer dresses stepped out, their jewelry catching the light, their laughter loud and confident. This was a different world, a world Lisa served but could never belong to. Mr. Chen gathered all the waitstaff for a quick meeting. Tonight is very important, he said, his face serious. These are our most valued customers, some of the wealthiest people in the city. I need everyone on their best behavior. No mistakes, understood? Everyone nodded. Lisa felt her stomach twist with nervousness. High-pressure nights like this always made her anxious. She was assigned to the section near the piano, tables 5 through 9. As guests began settling in, she moved smoothly between them, taking drink orders, explaining the menu, smiling until her cheeks hurt. Then he arrived. Robert Davidson. Lisa knew who he was. Everyone did. His face was regularly in the business section of newspapers. He owned half the real estate in the city, maybe more. Hotels, shopping centers, apartment buildings. The man was worth billions with a B. He walked in like he owned the place. And honestly, for all Lisa knew, maybe he did. He was in his 50s, with gray hair slicked back, an expensive watch that probably cost more than a car, and a suit that looked like it was sewn by angels. Behind him came his group. 4 other people, all dressed just as expensively, all wearing the same expression of casual superiority. They were seated at table 7, Lisa's table. She approached with her notepad ready, her professional smile in place. Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome to the Grand Meridian. Can I start you off with something to drink? Robert didn't even look at her. He was talking to the man next to him about some business deal, his voice loud and booming. The others laughed at something he said. Lisa waited and waited. Finally, she cleared her throat gently. Sir, would you like to order drinks? Robert glanced at her the way you might glance at a fly buzzing near your food, with mild annoyance. He snapped his fingers. Actually snapped them. Like she was a dog. Bring us your best champagne, he said, turning back to his conversation without waiting for her response. Lisa's face burned, but she kept smiling. Of course, sir, right away. She returned with the champagne, a bottle that cost $800, which she knew because she'd seen the price list. She carefully opened it the way she'd been trained, letting it breathe before pouring. As she leaned forward to fill Robert's glass, someone at the table shifted their chair suddenly. Lisa stumbled slightly, and a single drop of water from the ice bucket splashed onto the marble table, inches from Robert's plate. It was tiny, barely noticeable, but Robert noticed. His head snapped up, his face reddening. Are you kidding me? His voice cut through the gentle murmur of conversation in the restaurant. Other tables turned to look. I'm so sorry, sir, Lisa said quickly, reaching for a napkin. Let me clean that up. Sorry? Robert's voice got louder. Do you know how much I pay to eat here, and I have to deal with clumsy waitresses who can't even pour water without making a mess? Lisa's hands shook as she wiped the single drop. It won't happen again, sir. I apologize. You apologize? Robert leaned back in his chair, looking at his companions with a smirk. She apologizes. Did you hear that? The men at his table laughed uncomfortably. One of them muttered, Come on, Robert, it's fine. But Robert was on a roll now. He seemed to enjoy the attention, the way other diners were watching, the way Lisa stood frozen with shame. This is exactly what I'm talking about, Robert announced, loud enough for half the restaurant to hear. Some people just don't have what it takes. They're born to serve, not to succeed. No ambition, no intelligence, just going through the motions. Lisa felt tears prickling at her eyes, but she blinked them back hard. She would not cry. Not here. Not in front of everyone. I'm sure she's doing her best, another man at the table said quietly, looking embarrassed. Her best? Robert laughed, a cold, cruel sound. Her best is spilling water and probably can't even spell the dishes on this menu. I bet she barely finished high school. These people, they don't think about improvement or education. They just do the minimum and expect to get paid. Each word was like a slap. Lisa stood there, her feet rooted to the floor, her mind screaming at her to defend herself, to say something, to tell this horrible man that he knew nothing about her life or her struggles, but she couldn't, because she needed this job. Because her mom needed medicine, because rent was due next week. So she did what she always did. She swallowed her pride, buried her anger deep down, and smiled. Is there anything else I can get for you, sir? Robert waved his hand dismissively. Just stay away from our table unless we call you. Get someone competent to serve us. Lisa nodded and walked away, her legs somehow carrying her, even though she felt like she might collapse. She could hear the whispers around the restaurant, could feel dozens of eyes on her back. In the staff corridor, away from the customers, she leaned against the wall and let out a shaky breath. Her hands were trembling. Her heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. Maria found her there. Hey, I saw what happened. What a jerk. Are you okay? I'm fine, Lisa lied. You don't have to serve them anymore. I can take that table. No. Lisa straightened up, wiping her eyes. No, I'm fine. Really. But she wasn't fine. As she went back to work, serving other tables, smiling at other customers, that encounter played over and over in her head. The laughter, the cruelty, the assumption that she was stupid, lazy, worthless. If only he knew. If only any of them knew. She'd had a 4.0 grade point average in college. She'd won piano competitions. She'd been accepted to one of the most prestigious music programs in the country. Professors had called her gifted, talented, exceptional. But none of that mattered now. All that mattered was that she was a waitress who'd spilled a drop of water, and Robert Davidson had decided that meant she was nothing. The worst part? A tiny voice in the back of her head wondered if he was right. 3 years of serving tables, of putting her dreams on hold, of being invisible. Maybe she had become nothing. Maybe the girl who used to play piano in concert halls was gone forever. Throughout the evening, Lisa avoided table 7 as much as possible. Another waiter took over their service. But she could still hear Robert's booming laugh, still catch glimpses of him holding court, probably telling his friends more stories about incompetent staff. Around 9 o'clock, Mr. Chen appeared in the dining hall, looking stressed. He walked quickly to the small stage area near the piano where a microphone stood ready. He tapped it and the sound echoed through the room. Conversations died down. Everyone turned to look. "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen." Mr. Chen began, his voice tight with anxiety. "Thank you all for coming tonight for this wonderful charity event. As you know, we had arranged for a special musical performance this evening." Lisa, standing near the kitchen door with a tray of desserts, felt her stomach drop. Something was wrong. "Unfortunately," Mr. Chen continued, "our pianist has had a family emergency and cannot make it tonight. I sincerely apologize. We're trying to find a replacement, but—" "Oh, come on," Robert's voice boomed out. "You charge these prices and can't even deliver on entertainment. This is ridiculous." Other guests murmured in agreement. The charity organizers looked panicked. Apparently, the piano performance was supposed to be a highlight of the evening. Mr. Chen's face was red with embarrassment. "I truly apologize. If anyone knows of a pianist who might be available on such short notice—" "What about her?" Robert's voice cut through the room again. Lisa looked up. Robert was pointing directly at her, that same cruel smirk on his face. "Your clumsy waitress there," he said. "Maybe she has hidden talents. Maybe she can play piano." He laughed, and his table laughed with him. "Come on, sweetheart. Entertain us. I'm sure you know Twinkle Twinkle Little Star or something." The entire restaurant was looking at her now. Lisa felt her face burning hot, her heart racing. She should have stayed quiet, should have just shaken her head and gone back to work. But something inside her snapped. Maybe it was the hours of exhaustion. Maybe it was 3 years of swallowing her pride. Maybe it was the way he'd treated her like she was stupid and worthless. Or maybe it was the piano, sitting there silent and waiting, like an old friend asking her to come home. "Actually," Lisa heard herself say, her voice quiet but steady, "I can play." The laughter died. Robert's smirk faltered. Mr. Chen stared at her in shock. "I can play piano," she repeated, louder this time. Robert recovered quickly, his grin widening. "Oh, this I have to see. Please, by all means, grace us with your talent." He said talent like it was a joke, like he was already imagining how badly she would fail, how much he would laugh. But as Lisa set down her tray and walked toward that beautiful grand piano, something shifted inside her. The fear melted away. The exhaustion disappeared. For the first time in 3 years, she felt like herself again. The walk from the kitchen door to the piano felt like the longest journey of Lisa's life. Every eye in the restaurant followed her. She could hear whispers, could sense the curiosity mixed with doubt, could feel the weight of everyone's expectations, or rather, their complete lack of expectations. They thought she would fail. They thought this was going to be entertainment of a different kind, the awkward, cringe-worthy kind where someone embarrasses themselves publicly. Robert was already laughing, turning to his table mates. "This is going to be priceless. Someone get your phone ready. This needs to go on social media." Lisa's hands were shaking as she approached the piano bench, not from nervousness about playing, she knew she could play, but from the sheer emotion of being this close to the instrument again. It had been so long, so painfully long. Mr. Chen hurried over to her, his face confused and concerned. He spoke quietly so only she could hear. "Lisa, you don't have to do this. If that man is making you uncomfortable, I want to," she said simply. "But you can play? Really play? This isn't—" He trailed off, clearly worried this was going to be a disaster. Lisa looked at him, and for the first time in 3 years of working there, she let him see past the waitress facade. "I was a music major. Full scholarship. I trained for 15 years before I came here." Mr. Chen's eyes widened. "What? Why didn't you ever tell me?" "Because it doesn't matter," she said softly. "Not anymore. But tonight, maybe just for tonight, it could matter again." She sat down on the piano bench and the familiarity of it almost made her cry. The height was perfect. The leather was smooth and cool. She adjusted the bench slightly, an automatic movement from years of practice. Behind her, she heard Robert's voice. "Any time now, sweetheart. Don't worry, we're not expecting Beethoven or anything. Just give us happy birthday and we'll all applaud politely." More laughter from his table. A few uncomfortable chuckles from other guests who weren't quite sure what was happening. Lisa lifted her hands to the keys but didn't touch them yet. She closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. In her mind, she was transported back to her college practice room. That small space with soundproof walls where she'd spent countless hours, where her professor would sit and listen, occasionally stopping her to correct a passage or praise a particularly well-executed phrase. She remembered the last time she'd played a real piano. Her final recital before everything changed. She'd performed Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2, the third movement, one of the most challenging pieces in the classical repertoire. The audience had given her a standing ovation. Her professor had tears in his eyes. Afterwards, he'd pulled her aside and said, "You're going to have an incredible career. I've never been more sure of anything." 2 weeks later, her mom was diagnosed with cancer. Lisa opened her eyes. Her hands were steady now, hovering over the keys. She could feel the energy of the instrument beneath her fingers, like it was calling to her, begging her to bring it to life. The room had gone completely quiet. Even the kitchen staff had stopped what they were doing, crowding in the doorway to watch. She made a decision. She wasn't going to play something safe or simple. She wasn't going to prove she could play Happy Birthday or some easy pop song. If she was going to do this, if she was going to reveal this hidden part of herself, she was going to do it right. She was going to play Rachmaninoff. The same piece from her last recital. The third movement of the Piano Concerto No. 2. It was ambitious, maybe too ambitious. The piece was meant to be played with an orchestra, and she'd only have the piano. Plus, she hadn't practiced in 3 years. Her muscle memory might be gone. Her technique might be rusty. She could fail spectacularly in front of all these people, but something told her she wouldn't fail. Couldn't fail. This piece was part of her soul. It lived in her bones. Behind her, Robert's patience was wearing thin. "Come on, this is ridiculous. Either play something or admit you can't and get back to refilling water glasses." His friends laughed again, but it sounded forced now. Even they seemed uncomfortable with how far he was pushing this. Lisa's fingers finally touched the keys. The piano was perfectly in tune. Of course it was, this restaurant spared no expense. She played a single note, then another, testing the weight of the keys, the responsiveness of the hammers. "What's she doing?" someone whispered. "I think she's actually going to play something." Another voice responded, sounding surprised. Mr. Chen stood off to the side, his hands clasped together nervously. The charity organizers watched with a mixture of hope and dread. The other waitstaff held their breath. And then Lisa began. The opening notes of Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2 rang out through the dining hall. Not tentatively, not nervously, but with power and confidence. Her right hand played the melody, that famous, sweeping, emotional theme that everyone knows even if they don't know what it's called. Her left hand provided the rich, rolling accompaniment. The effect was immediate and electric. The whispers stopped. The smiles froze. Robert's laughter died in his throat. Because what came out of that piano wasn't the fumbling attempt of someone who'd taken a few childhood lessons. It wasn't even the competent playing of a good amateur. It was the sound of a true musician. Someone who didn't just play notes but felt them. Someone who could make the piano sing and weep and soar. Lisa's eyes were closed again, but this time not from nervousness. She was lost in the music. Her fingers flew across the keys with a speed and precision that shouldn't have been possible for someone who hadn't practiced in years. But muscle memory is a powerful thing. Her body remembered even if her conscious mind had tried to forget. The music filled every corner of the restaurant. It bounced off the crystal chandeliers, resonated through the marble floors, wrapped around every person in the room like an embrace. This was Rachmaninoff at his most romantic, his most passionate. The melody soared and dipped, crescendoed and softened. Lisa's whole body moved with the music, swaying, leaning into the keys, pulling back during the quieter moments. Her fingers ached. 3 years away from playing meant her hands weren't as strong as they used to be, but she pushed through the pain, driven by something deeper than physical discomfort. She poured everything into this performance, all the frustration of the past 3 years, all the dreams she'd had to put away, all the exhaustion from double shifts and rude customers and pretending to be less than she was, all the love she still had for music despite everything. The piece built to its first major climax, a section where both hands played rapid, powerful chords that required incredible strength and precision. Lisa's arms were on fire, but she didn't slow down. She attacked the keys with a ferocity that made the piano ring out like a bell. In the audience, people had stopped eating entirely. Forks were suspended halfway to mouths. Wine glasses sat forgotten. Every single person was transfixed. A woman in the back had tears streaming down her face. She was a musician herself, and she recognized what she was hearing. Not just technical skill, but genuine artistry. Mr. Chen stood with his mouth actually hanging open. In 3 years, he'd never suspected. How could he have? Lisa had been so careful to hide this part of herself, to be just a waitress, nothing more. Maria, watching from the kitchen door, had both hands over her mouth. She'd worked alongside Lisa for 2 years and never knew. None of them knew. But the most striking transformation was at table 7. Robert's face had gone pale. The smirk was completely gone. He sat frozen in his chair, staring at Lisa with an expression of pure shock. The man next to him, who'd laughed the loudest at Robert's jokes earlier, now looked angry at Robert for mocking someone so talented. One of the other men at the table whispered, "Did you know she could play like this?" Robert didn't answer. Couldn't answer. He looked like someone had slapped him across the face. Lisa played on, oblivious to all of it. She was in her own world now, a world where she wasn't a waitress with sore feet and a breaking heart. She was a musician, an artist. The person she used to be, the person she'd thought was lost forever. The piece moved into a quieter section, a moment of reflection before the final storm. Lisa's playing became tender, almost whisper-soft. Her fingers barely seemed to touch the keys, yet each note rang out clear and pure. This was the part that always made her emotional. This was the part where her professor would always nod approvingly, where audiences would lean forward in their seats, holding their breath, and then, like a wave building in the ocean, the music began to swell again. The final section was approaching, the grand finale where everything came together in an explosion of sound and feeling. Lisa's hands moved faster, stronger. The pain in her fingers didn't matter anymore. The exhaustion didn't matter. Nothing mattered except the music. The piano sang beneath her hands. It roared, it whispered secrets. It told a story of loss and hope, of dreams deferred but not forgotten, of a human spirit that refused to be broken no matter what life threw at it. And as Lisa played the final, climactic chords, her whole body lifting off the bench with the force of it, her hands crashing down on the keys with everything she had left, something inside her that had been locked away for 3 years finally broke free. The last note hung in the air, resonating through the silent restaurant, slowly fading like the last light of sunset. The applause started like thunder. One person stood up, then another, then another. Within seconds, every single person in the restaurant was on their feet, clapping so hard their hands must have hurt. Some people were cheering. Others were crying openly. The sound was overwhelming, almost as powerful as the music had been. Lisa sat at the piano, stunned. Her hands were still trembling on the keys. She couldn't quite believe what had just happened. For 3 years, she'd kept this part of herself locked away, hidden so deep she'd almost convinced herself it wasn't real anymore. But it was real. It was the most real thing about her. She slowly stood up from the piano bench, her legs shaky. The applause continued, wave after wave of it crashing over her. She didn't know what to do with her hands, how to stand, where to look. This wasn't how she'd imagined this evening going when she'd clocked in for her shift. Mr. Chen was the first to reach her. His eyes were shining with tears. "Lisa, I had no idea. That was incredible." Before she could respond, other people surrounded her. The charity organizers thanking her profusely. The restaurant's owner, who'd been dining at a corner table and was now shaking her hand enthusiastically. Guests who wanted to tell her how moved they were, how beautiful her playing was, how they'd never forget this moment. It was overwhelming. For 3 years, Lisa had been invisible in this restaurant. A servant. Someone people looked through rather than at, and now suddenly she was the center of attention. It felt strange. wonderful and terrifying at the same time. Through the crowd, Lisa caught sight of table 7. Robert sat alone. His companions had all gotten up to join the standing ovation, but he remained in his chair, looking like someone had knocked the wind out of him. His face was ashen, his earlier confidence completely shattered. Their eyes met across the room. Lisa saw something in his expression she hadn't expected. Shame. Deep, genuine shame, but she couldn't think about him right now. There were too many people wanting to talk to her, too many emotions flooding through her system, too much of everything. Maria pushed through the crowd and hugged her tight. "Girl, why didn't you ever tell me?" 3 years we've been working together and you never said a word. Lisa laughed, a slightly hysterical sound. It didn't seem important, it didn't seem... Lisa, that was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. How is that not important? How could Lisa explain? How could she make anyone understand that it had been too painful to talk about? That every day she walked past that piano was a reminder of everything she'd lost? That talking about her musical past felt like ripping open a wound that was just barely starting to heal? An older gentleman made his way through the crowd. He was distinguished looking, probably in his 70s, with white hair and kind eyes. Something about the way people stepped aside for him suggested he was someone important. "Excuse me," he said gently.
"May I have a moment?"
The crowd quieted. Lisa nodded, not trusting her voice. "My name is Dr. James Fletcher," he said. "I'm a conductor. I've worked with symphony orchestras around the world for the past 40 years. He paused, his eyes serious. "That was one of the most extraordinary performances I've ever witnessed." "Where did you train?" Lisa's throat felt tight. "Lincoln School of Music. I was a student there." 3 years ago, were? Dr. Fletcher's eyebrows rose. "You're not anymore?" I had to leave. Family circumstances? I see." He studied her face for a moment, and Lisa had the feeling he saw more than she wanted to reveal. "Well, let me ask you this. Are you still playing regularly? Do you have a performance career?" Lisa almost laughed at the absurdity of it. "No, I'm a waitress. I haven't touched a piano in 3 years. The shock on his face was almost comical. 3 years? You haven't played in 3 years and you just performed Rachmaninoff like that? I used to practice 8 hours a day," Lisa said quietly. "I guess some things you don't forget." Dr. Fletcher shook his head in amazement. "My dear, you don't understand. What you just did. Professional concert pianists practice that piece for months before performing it. And you haven't played in 3 years?" He pulled out a business card from his pocket. "I'm organizing a benefit concert next month. We're raising money for music education programs in underprivileged schools. I would be honored if you would perform." Lisa stared at the card in her hand. It felt like a door opening, one she'd thought was locked forever. But fear immediately rushed in. I don't know if I can. I work here. I have responsibilities." "Think about it," Dr. Fletcher said kindly. "But please don't let a gift like yours go to waste. The world needs beauty, especially now. And you, young lady, have beauty pouring out of your fingertips." He squeezed her hand gently and moved away, leaving Lisa holding his card like it might disappear if she didn't grip it tight enough. More people came to congratulate her. A woman who taught piano wanted to know if Lisa gave lessons. A talent agent asked if she had representation. Someone from a local arts foundation wanted to talk about scholarship opportunities. It was surreal. 12 hours ago, Lisa had been worrying about paying her electric bill. Now people were talking to her like she was someone important, someone with value beyond her ability to balance plates on her arm. Through it all, Lisa kept catching glimpses of Robert. He'd finally stood up but hadn't joined the well-wishers. He stood apart, watching, his face unreadable. The men who'd been at his table were now keeping their distance from him, their earlier camaraderie gone. Eventually, the crowd began to thin. The charity event had to continue. There were speeches to be made, donations to be collected. But the energy in the room had completely changed. People kept looking at Lisa, smiling at her, giving her little nods of approval. Mr. Chen approached her again. This time with the restaurant owner, Mr. Wong, beside him. "Lisa," Mr. Wong said, "I've owned this restaurant for 20 years. We've had professional pianists perform here dozens of times, but I have never heard anything like what you just did." He paused. "Why are you working as a waitress when you have this talent?" The question hung in the air. It was the question everyone wanted to ask, but most were too polite to voice. Lisa felt her defenses rising. She didn't want to explain her life story to these people. Didn't want their pity. but Mr. Wong's face showed only genuine curiosity, not judgment. My mother got sick, Lisa said simply. Stage 3 cancer. Someone needed to work to pay the bills. I was the only one who could. Understanding dawned on Mr. Wong's face. And the medical bills are still there, Lisa finished. She's in remission now, thank God, but the debt, it's going to take years to pay off. Mr. Chen and Mr. Wong exchanged a look. Some wordless communication passed between them. What if we adjusted your schedule? Mr. Chen suggested. You could work fewer hours here, have time to practice, maybe start taking on some performance opportunities. I can't afford fewer hours, Lisa said, hating how her voice cracked. I need the money. We'll figure something out, Mr. Wong said firmly. Talent like yours shouldn't be wasted serving tables. No offense to the noble profession of waiting, he added with a small smile. But you belong on a stage, not in a dining room. Before Lisa could respond, another voice cut through the conversation. Excuse me. Everyone turned. Robert stood there looking smaller somehow than he had earlier in the evening. The arrogance was gone. He looked like a man who'd just realized he'd made a terrible mistake. Could I speak with you? He asked Lisa, privately. The protective instinct in Mr. Chen immediately flared. I don't think it's okay, Lisa said. She didn't know why she agreed. Maybe she wanted to hear what he had to say. Maybe she wanted him to apologize. Or maybe she just wanted to look him in the eye and let him see that she was a real person, not just a servant he could mock. They moved to a quiet corner of the restaurant. Robert seemed to struggle with where to start. He opened his mouth, closed it, rubbed his face with his hand. Finally, he spoke. I'm sorry. The words came out rough, like they hurt to say. Lisa waited. She wasn't going to make this easy for him. I was cruel to you earlier, Robert continued. I said terrible things. I treated you like you were less than human, and I have no excuse for that, none. Lisa stayed silent. I come from money, Robert said, and there was something bitter in his voice now. I was born into it. Never had to work for anything. Never had to struggle. And somewhere along the way I started thinking that meant I was better than people who do have to work. People like you. He looked at her directly now. But you're not less than me. God, you're so much more than me. You have this incredible gift. And you sacrificed it for your family. You work these long hours, let people like me treat you like garbage, and you do it with dignity. He shook his head. I don't have a tenth of your strength. I don't have a tenth of your character. Why? Lisa asked quietly. Why were you so mean? What did I ever do to you? Robert was quiet for a long moment. Honestly, I don't know. Maybe making other people feel small makes me feel big. Maybe I'm just a bully who never grew up. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. My father was like this. He treated service workers terribly. I swore I'd never be like him. But here I am, exactly like him. Lisa didn't know what to say. Part of her wanted to tell him it was okay, to accept his apology and move on. But it wasn't okay. His words had hurt. Lisa couldn't sleep that night. She got home around 1 a.m, exhausted in every possible way, physically, emotionally, mentally. But as soon as she lay down in bed, her mind started racing. Everything that had happened played on repeat in her head like a movie she couldn't turn off. The humiliation. The challenge. The performance. The applause. Robert's apology. Dr. Fletcher's offer. All of it swirling together until she didn't know what to feel anymore. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. She'd gotten 12 text messages and had 7 missed calls. Most were from co-workers who'd witnessed everything. Maria had sent 3 messages alone, each one more enthusiastic than the last. OMG, Lisa. You're trending on social media. Someone filmed you? Call me as soon as you wake up. Trending? Lisa's stomach dropped. She opened her phone's browser and searched her own name. Sure enough, there were videos. Multiple videos. Guests at the restaurant had filmed her performance and posted it online. One video already had 200,000 views. The comments were overwhelming. This made me cry. So beautiful. Who is this woman? She needs a record deal. I can't believe she's just a waitress. What a waste of talent. The way she plays, you can feel every emotion. This is what real music sounds like. But there were other comments too. Comments about Robert. Anyone notice the guy at table 7? He looks like he wants to disappear. I heard he was making fun of her before this. What a jerk. That man should be ashamed of himself. Someone had recognized Robert and tagged his business page. Lisa scrolled through those comments and winced. People were angry. Really angry. They were calling for boycotts of his properties. They were leaving one-star reviews on his businesses. They were calling him every name in the book. Part of Lisa felt satisfied. He deserved some consequences for his cruelty. But another part of her felt uncomfortable. This was spiraling into something bigger than one man's bad behavior at dinner. She closed the browser and tried to sleep, but her mind wouldn't settle. Finally, around 3 in the morning, she gave up and went to the living room where her old electric keyboard sat gathering dust. She plugged in headphones and turned it on. The keys felt cheap and plastic under her fingers, nothing like the beautiful Steinway from the restaurant. But it would do. Lisa started playing quietly just for herself. Nothing fancy, just scales and arpeggios. The basic exercises she used to do every morning before classes. Her fingers were sore from tonight's performance, but the movement felt good. Felt right. This was who she was. Not the tired waitress. Not the girl who'd given up her dreams. This person at the keyboard, making music in the middle of the night. She played until the sun came up. Until her mother shuffled out of her bedroom, rubbing sleep from her eyes. Lisa? Baby, what are you doing up? Lisa stopped playing and pulled off the headphones. Couldn't sleep, Mom. Her mother sat down on the couch studying her daughter's face. Something happened at work. It wasn't a question. Mothers always know. Lisa told her everything. The whole story poured out. Robert's cruelty, the broken performance arrangement, her decision to play, the standing ovation, all of it. Her mother listened without interrupting, her expression changing from concern to anger to pride to wonder. When Lisa finished, her mother was crying. Mom, don't cry. These are happy tears, baby. Her mother wiped her eyes. Do you know how long I've been waiting for you to play again? 3 years. 3 years you've been pretending you don't miss it. I do miss it, Lisa admitted. Every single day. Then why did you stop? I never asked you to sacrifice your music for me. Someone had to pay the bills. I know, and I'll be grateful forever for what you did. But baby, I didn't want you to give up your whole life. That's not what love is supposed to cost. Lisa felt tears threatening. I didn't know what else to do. You were sick. We needed money, and now I'm better. I've been in remission for 8 months. The hardest part is over. But you're still working yourself to death, still pretending you're just a waitress when we both know you're so much more. Her mother reached over and took Lisa's hands. You gave me 3 years. You saved my life. Now it's time to save your own. Go back to music. Go back to the life you were meant to live. It's not that simple, Mom. We still have all that debt. We'll figure it out. We always do. Her mother squeezed her hands tight. Promise me you'll think about it. Promise me you won't waste this chance. Lisa promised, though she didn't know how she was going to make it work. Her phone rang. It was Mr. Chen. Lisa, I'm so sorry to call you this early, but Mr. Wang and I would like to meet with you today if possible. We have a proposal. They met at a small coffee shop near the restaurant. Mr. Wang and Mr. Chen were already there when Lisa arrived, both looking tired but excited. Thank you for coming, Mr. Wang said, gesturing for her to sit. I'll get straight to the point. We want to offer you a new position at the restaurant. Lisa's heart sank. She liked her job, but the thought of continuing to waitress after everything that had happened felt impossible. How could she go back to serving tables after standing at that piano, after remembering who she really was? Mr. Wang must have seen her expression because he smiled. Not as a waitress. As our resident pianist, Lisa blinked. What? We want you to perform, Mr. Chen explained. 3 nights a week to start. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, our busiest nights. We'll pay you double what you're currently making in wages plus tips, and you'll have time to pursue other performance opportunities. I don't understand. You already have pianists you hire for special events. Professional musicians who charge us $5,000 per performance, Mr. Wang said. Honestly, none of them are as good as you. What you did last night, people are still calling the restaurant, asking when you'll perform again. We've had more reservations in the past 12 hours than we usually get in a week. He pulled out his phone and showed her the restaurant's social media. The video of her performance had been shared to their page. The comments were overwhelming. Hundreds of people saying they wanted to come hear her play in person. This is good for business, Mr. Wang said frankly. But more than that, it's the right thing to do. You belong at that piano, Lisa, not carrying trays. Lisa felt overwhelmed. I haven't practiced in 3 years. I'm not performance ready. Last night was, I don't even know how I did that. It was pure emotion and adrenaline. Then practice, Mr. Chen said simply. Use the restaurant during off hours. The piano is yours. Come in whenever you want. We're also going to help with your mother's medical bills, Mr. Wang added. The restaurant has a charitable fund. We'd like to make a significant contribution. I can't accept charity. It's not charity. It's an investment in our new star performer. Mr. Wang smiled. Think of it as an advance on your future earnings. Because trust me, once word gets out that you're performing regularly, this restaurant is going to be the hottest ticket in town. Lisa didn't know what to say. This morning she'd woken up as a waitress, drowning in debt. Now she was being offered a way out. A way back to music. Can I think about it? She asked, of course. Take all the time you need. Mr. Wang stood up, shaking her hand. But Lisa? Don't think too long. Life doesn't offer many second chances. When one comes, you should grab it with both hands. After they left, Lisa sat in the coffee shop staring at her reflection in the window. She looked different than she had yesterday. Or maybe she looked like herself again. It was hard to tell. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Hi Lisa, this is Dr. Fletcher. I hope you don't mind. I got your number from Mr. Chen. I wanted to follow up about the benefit concert. We've already sold out of tickets just from word of mouth about you. Would you consider being our featured performer? We're raising money for underprivileged kids to get music lessons. Kids like you probably were once. Please think about it. Another text came through. This one from a name she recognized. Professor Davis, her old music teacher from Lincoln School of Music. Lisa, I saw the video. I always knew you were special. But that performance was transcendent. Please call me. The school wants to talk to you about completing your degree. We have emergency scholarship funds for situations exactly like yours. Then another message, and another. A local news station wanted to interview her. A talent agency wanted to represent her. Someone from a classical music radio show wanted her to come talk about her story. It was too much. All of it. Lisa put her phone face down on the table and tried to breathe. This was what she'd wanted, wasn't it? 3 years ago, this was her dream. To be recognized, to perform, to make music her career. But now that it was actually happening, she felt terrified. What if she couldn't do it? What if last night was a fluke? What if she'd used up all her talent in that one performance and had nothing left to give? What if she failed? But then she remembered something her professor used to say. The only real failure is not trying. Everything else is just learning. She picked up her phone and typed out a text to Dr. Fletcher. I'll do it. I'll be your featured performer. Send, then she texted Professor Davis. I'd love to talk about finishing my degree. Send, then she called Mr. Wang. I accept your offer. When do I start? On the other end of the line, she could hear the smile in his voice. How about tonight? We have a full house and everyone's asking about you. The music that came from Lisa's fingers that second night was different from the first. Last night had been raw emotion. Anger, pain, years of frustration pouring out all at once. Tonight was something else. Tonight was pure joy. She chose a different piece. Something lighter, more hopeful. Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major. It was beautiful and romantic. The kind of music that made you think of moonlight and falling in love and all the good things in life. As she played, Lisa felt something shift inside her. The fear that had been gripping her chest all day began to loosen. Her fingers moved across the keys with confidence, her body swaying gently with the melody. This was where she belonged. This was who she was supposed to be. The restaurant, which had been buzzing with conversation when she started, gradually fell silent. Forks stopped moving. Conversations trailed off. Every eye in the room turned to the piano, to the young woman whose story had captured so many hearts. Lisa could feel their attention, but instead of making her nervous, it energized her. She was sharing something precious with these people, her love of music, her gift, and they were receiving it with open hearts. When the Chopin ended, there was a moment of perfect stillness. Then the applause began, warm and genuine. People were smiling, some wiping tears from their eyes. Lisa stood and bowed, feeling awkward but grateful. More, someone called out. Others joined in. Please play another. Lisa looked at Mr. Chen, who nodded encouragingly. She sat back down and played another piece, then another. Each one was met with enthusiastic applause. Between pieces, Lisa found herself talking to the audience, something she'd never done before. This next one is Debussy. she said, her voice soft but audible in the quiet room. It's called Clair de Lune. It means moonlight in French. My professor used to say that this piece sounds like what hope feels like. She played it beautifully, pouring all her newfound hope into every note. The restaurant seemed to hold its breath, caught up in the spell of the music. Over the next few weeks, Lisa's performances became legendary. The restaurant was booked solid for months in advance. People came from other cities just to hear her play. Local newspapers wrote articles about her. A classical music magazine did a feature story titled, "The Waitress Who Became a Star." But success brought complications Lisa hadn't anticipated. Some of her old co-workers at the restaurant started treating her differently. Not everyone was happy about her sudden rise. A few seemed resentful that she'd escaped waitressing while they were still stuck in it. Lisa tried to stay humble, to remind them that she was still the same person, but she could feel the distance growing. Only Maria remained a true friend. "Don't let them get to you," she said one night after Lisa's performance. "They're just jealous. It's normal. I don't want anyone to be jealous. I didn't ask for any of this." "But you earned it," Maria said firmly. "You have a gift and you're using it. That's nothing to feel guilty about." Meanwhile, the video of Lisa's first performance continued to spread. It reached millions of views across different platforms. Music schools started reaching out. Performance venues wanted to book her. Record labels sent representatives to hear her play. Professor Davis made good on his promise. Lincoln School of Music offered Lisa a full scholarship to return and complete her final year. They even offered to work with her schedule so she could continue performing at the restaurant. "We want you back," Professor Davis told her over coffee. "You were one of our most talented students. What happened to your mother was tragic, but you shouldn't have to sacrifice your entire future because of it." Lisa accepted. Starting in the fall, she would be back in school, studying music theory and composition, practicing with other talented musicians, preparing for her senior recital. Her mother cried when Lisa told her. Happy tears this time. "I'm so proud of you, baby." So proud, but the most unexpected development came from Dr. Fletcher's benefit concert. The event was held at the city's premier concert hall, a beautiful venue with perfect acoustics and seats for 2,000 people. Lisa had never performed in a space so grand. The stage seemed to stretch on forever. The piano, another Steinway even more magnificent than the one at the restaurant, gleamed under the stage lights. Lisa stood in the wings, peeking out at the filling auditorium, and felt her stomach flip with nerves. This was different from the restaurant. This was a real concert hall with a real audience who'd paid good money for tickets. What if she messed up? What if she froze? Dr. Fletcher found her backstage, saw the panic on her face, and smiled kindly. "Nervous?" "Terrified," Lisa admitted. "Good, that means you care." He placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Let me tell you something. I've conducted for the greatest pianists in the world. I've stood on stages with legends. And you know what I've learned? The ones who never get nervous are the ones who never truly connect with their audience. Your fear means you understand how special this is. Use it. Channel it into your performance. What if I'm not ready? What if I disappoint everyone? Lisa, you've been ready for years. You just forgot for a while." He squeezed her shoulder. "Now get out there and remind yourself why you fell in love with music in the first place." When Lisa walked onto that stage, the applause was already thundering. 2,000 people on their feet before she'd played a single note. She looked out at the sea of faces and felt overwhelmed by their support. She sat at the piano, adjusted the bench, and took a deep breath. The audience settled into expectant silence. And then Lisa began to play. She'd chosen to perform the same Rachmaninoff piece from that first night at the restaurant. It felt right somehow, coming full circle, playing the piece that had changed everything. But this time, the performance was even better. She'd had weeks to practice, to rebuild the strength in her hands, to polish every phrase. And she was playing on a world-class instrument in a hall designed specifically for music. Every note resonated perfectly, filling the space with rich, emotional sound. Lisa lost herself in the music completely. There was no anxiety, no fear, no self-doubt. There was only the piano and the melody and the pure joy of making something beautiful. She played the first movement, then the second, then launched into the dramatic third movement. Her fingers flew across the keys in the rapid passages. Her whole body moved with the music, swaying and leaning, putting her entire being into every chord and run. The audience was transfixed. People sat on the edge of their seats, barely breathing. Some had tears streaming down their faces. Others gripped their armrests, caught up in the intensity of the performance. In the front row, Lisa's mother sat next to Professor Davis, both of them beaming with pride. A few rows back, Mr. Wong and Mr. Chen had come to support her. Maria was there too, along with several other co-workers from the restaurant. And in the balcony, sitting alone in a corner seat, was Robert. He'd bought a ticket without telling anyone. He'd simply wanted to be there to witness this moment. The man who'd mocked Lisa for being just a waitress now watched in awe as she commanded a concert hall like she'd been born to do it. Lisa played the final, climactic section with everything she had. The music built and built, reaching a fever pitch of emotion. Her hands crashed down on the keys for the last powerful chords, the sound reverberating through the hall like thunder. The final note hung in the air for what felt like an eternity. Then the audience exploded. The standing ovation was instantaneous and deafening. All 2,000 people on their feet, applauding and cheering and shouting her name. The sound was like a physical force washing over Lisa in waves. She stood at the piano, stunned, overwhelmed, tears streaming down her face. She bowed once, twice, 3 times. The applause didn't stop. It went on, 5 minutes, then 10. Dr. Fletcher walked onto the stage and handed her an enormous bouquet of roses. "Take another bow," he said, smiling. "They're not going to stop until you do." Lisa bowed again and the crowd roared even louder. She looked out at all those faces, strangers who'd come to hear her story through music, who'd given her their attention and their hearts for the past 40 minutes. This was what she dreamed of when she was a little girl, taking her first piano lessons. This was what she'd imagined during all those long hours of practice. This was why she'd fallen in love with music in the first place, and somehow, impossibly, after 3 years of thinking it was lost forever, she'd found her way back. Backstage after the concert, Lisa was surrounded by people. Everyone wanted to congratulate her, to shake her hand, to tell her how moved they'd been. A representative from a major classical music label approached with a recording contract. "We want to make an album with you, feature you as an emerging artist. We think you could be huge." A booking agent handed her his card. "I can get you concerts all over the country. Europe too, if you're interested." The demand is there. A music critic from a major newspaper wanted to interview her for a cover story. It was overwhelming in the best possible way. Lisa felt like she was dreaming, like she might wake up any moment back in her small apartment with sore feet and an alarm going off for another double shift. But it was real. All of it was real. Her mother fought through the crowd and wrapped Lisa in a tight hug. "You were magnificent," she whispered. "Your father would have been so proud." Lisa hugged her back, burying her face in her mother's shoulder. The weeks following the benefit concert felt like living in a completely different reality. Lisa's life had transformed so dramatically that sometimes she had to pinch herself to make sure it wasn't all a dream. The recording contract was real. The booking agent was real. The invitations to perform at prestigious venues across the country were real. The scholarship to finish her degree was real. And most incredibly, the zero balance on her mother's medical bills was real. But with all the good came some unexpected challenges. The internet can be a cruel place. And as Lisa's story spread, so did the criticism. Some people accused her of using her mother's illness as a sob story for attention. Others claimed the whole thing was staged for viral marketing. A few musicians with more traditional careers suggested she hadn't paid her dues and didn't deserve the opportunities coming her way. Lisa tried not to read the comments, but it was hard not to. Each negative word felt like a small knife, chipping away at her newfound confidence. "You can't let it get to you," Maria told her over coffee one morning. "Haters gonna hate. It's like a law of the universe or something." "I know, but it's hard when people question whether I deserve this. Maybe they're right. Maybe I'm just a viral moment that'll be forgotten in a month." "Girl, please." Maria rolled her eyes. "You're talented. Like a scary talented. That's not luck. That's years of hard work. You earned every single opportunity coming your way." Lisa wanted to believe her. Some days she did. Other days the doubt crept back in like fog. The day Robert's public apology went viral, everything changed again. Lisa was practicing at the restaurant during a quiet afternoon when her phone started buzzing nonstop. Text after text. Call after call. She ignored it at first, focused on perfecting a difficult passage in a Beethoven sonata, but the buzzing wouldn't stop. Finally, she picked up when Maria called for the third time. Have you seen it? Maria practically shouted into the phone. Seen what? Robert Davidson posted a public statement. It's everywhere. You need to read it right now. Lisa opened her phone and navigated to social media. Sure enough, Robert's post was trending. She clicked on it and started reading. My name is Robert Davidson. A few weeks ago, I did something I deeply regret. I publicly humiliated a young woman for no reason other than my own arrogance and cruelty. That woman was Lisa Chen, and she was working as a waitress at the time. I assumed, based on nothing but prejudice, that she was uneducated and lacking in ambition. I said terrible things to her in front of a room full of people. I was wrong. Completely, utterly wrong. Lisa is one of the most talented musicians I've ever heard. She had given up a promising career and a full scholarship to care for her sick mother. She worked multiple jobs to pay medical bills. She sacrificed her dreams so her mother could live, and I mocked her for it. I want to publicly apologize to Lisa. But more than that, I want to apologize to everyone I've ever treated this way. Every server, every clerk, every person in a service job that I looked down on because I thought my money made me better than them. It doesn't. It never did. We live in a society that judges people by their job titles and bank accounts. I was guilty of this. I am still working every day to be better. To see people, really see them, instead of just seeing what they do for a living. Lisa didn't just reveal her musical talent that night. She revealed my ugliness. And for that uncomfortable gift, I'm grateful. To anyone reading this, treat people with dignity. Everyone has a story. Everyone has value. The waitress serving your food might be a brilliant musician. The janitor cleaning your office might be a poet. The cashier ringing up your groceries might be fighting battles you know nothing about. Be kind, be humble, and never ever assume you know someone's worth based on where they work. Lisa, if you're reading this, thank you. You changed my life. I hope someday I can become someone worthy of your forgiveness. The post had millions of views, thousands of comments. News outlets were picking it up, running stories about redemption and second chances and the viral waitress pianist. Lisa read it 3 times, her emotions swirling. Part of her appreciated the apology. Part of her wondered if it was genuine or just damage control for his reputation. Part of her was angry that her story was being used as a teaching moment. She didn't know what to feel. Her phone rang. An unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Hello? Lisa, this is Catherine Miller from Good Morning America. We'd love to have you and Robert Davidson on the show together to talk about what happened. Would you be interested? I need to think about it. Of course. We'd pay you for your appearance and we'd feature your music. It would be great publicity for your upcoming performances. After Catherine hung up, the phone rang again. Another news show. Then another. Everyone wanted the story, the confrontation, the redemption, the forgiveness. They wanted to package it all up into a neat little narrative with a happy ending. But life wasn't that simple. That evening, Lisa was supposed to perform at the restaurant. She showed up early, needing time to clear her head. She sat at the piano, not playing, just resting her hands on the keys. Mr. Chen found her there. Big day, huh? You saw the post? Everyone saw the post. He sat down on a nearby chair. How are you feeling about it? Lisa was quiet for a long moment. I don't know. Is it weird that I'm not sure I forgive him yet? Not weird at all. Forgiveness isn't something you owe anyone, Lisa. It's a gift you give when you're ready. If you're ready. Everyone online is acting like his apology fixes everything. Like we should all just move on and celebrate the happy ending. But you're still angry, Mr. Chen said gently. I'm not even sure it's anger anymore. It's more like sadness. Sadness that it took me humiliating him with my talent for him to see me as human. What about all the other waitresses he's been cruel to? The ones who don't have a viral talent to prove their worth? Do they not deserve respect? Mr. Chen nodded slowly. That's a fair point. His apology is really nice. And paying off the medical debt was incredibly generous. But it doesn't change the fact that he only respects me now because I can do something impressive. Not because I'm a human being who deserved dignity all along. Have you told him this? No, I don't even know if I want to talk to him again. Lisa sighed. Is that petty? Everyone's saying I should forgive him. That his apology was so brave and heartfelt. It's not petty to have boundaries. You don't owe anyone your forgiveness, no matter how public their apology is. That night's performance was packed, even more crowded than usual, if that was possible. People had come because of Robert's post, wanting to see the famous Waitress pianist in person. Lisa played well, but her heart wasn't fully in it. She kept thinking about Robert's words, about the news interview requests, about how her personal pain had become entertainment for millions of strangers. After her final piece, as the audience applauded, Lisa did something she hadn't planned. She stood up and spoke into the microphone that had been set up for announcements. "Thank you all for coming tonight," she said, her voice slightly shaky. "I know many of you are here because you saw the video of what happened a few weeks ago. Because you read about the man who mocked me and then apologized." The room went silent. People leaned forward, sensing something important was about to happen. "I want to say something about that. Robert Davidson's apology was public, so I think my response should be too." Lisa took a deep breath. "I appreciate his apology. I truly do. And his generosity in helping with my mother's medical bills changed our lives. I'm grateful for that, but I want everyone to understand something. What happened to me shouldn't have taken a viral video to fix. I deserved respect when I was just a waitress with no musical talent to prove. Every server, every janitor, every person in any job deserves respect. Not because they might secretly be talented at something impressive, but because they're human beings. We shouldn't need a Hollywood moment to remember to be kind to each other." The audience was completely still, hanging on every word. Robert learned a lesson. That's good. I'm glad. But I hope we all learn the lesson. Don't wait until someone proves they're exceptional to treat them well. Treat everyone well all the time, regardless of what they can do for you or how they might impress you. Because here's the truth. I'm the same person I was when I was just serving tables. My value as a human didn't increase because I can play piano. It was always there. You just couldn't see it. Lisa's voice cracked slightly. So yes, I accept Robert's apology. But more importantly, I hope we all do better. I hope we see each other. Really see each other beyond the uniforms and the job titles and the assumptions. She stepped away from the microphone. For a moment, there was complete silence. Then someone in the back started clapping, slowly at first, then building. Within seconds, the entire restaurant was on its feet, applauding not for her music this time, but for her words. Lisa felt tears on her cheeks. These were different tears than the ones she'd cried during her performances. These were tears of relief. She'd said what needed to be said. She'd taken control of her own narrative. When she left the restaurant that night, there was someone waiting outside. Robert. He looked different than he had at the concert, smaller somehow. More vulnerable. He wasn't wearing one of his expensive suits, just jeans and a simple shirt. The Good Morning America studio was freezing cold. Lisa sat in the makeup chair, watching as a stylist worked on her face, transforming her into someone camera-ready. She'd never worn this much makeup in her life. Robert sat in the chair next to her, equally uncomfortable with the attention. They'd arrived separately and hadn't spoken much beyond polite greetings. The air between them was still awkward, still heavy with everything that had happened. 5 minutes, a production assistant called out. Lisa's stomach churned. She'd performed for thousands of people at the benefit concert, but somehow this felt more nerve-wracking. Music she understood. Talking about her feelings on national television? That was terrifying. Catherine Miller, the show's host, swept in wearing a bright red dress and a professional smile. "Lisa, Robert, so wonderful to have you both here. This is going to be a great segment. Very inspiring." Lisa nodded, not trusting herself to speak. They were led onto the set, seated on a curved couch with Catherine between them. The lights were blindingly bright. Lisa could see the cameras pointing at her like huge mechanical eyes. Beyond them, a studio audience watched with eager anticipation. And we're live in 5, 4, 3. The director counted down with his fingers for the final 2 numbers. Catherine's smile brightened even more. "Welcome back. We have a very special story for you this morning. You may have seen the viral video that's captured the hearts of millions. A waitress mocked by a wealthy customer sits down at a piano and delivers a performance that left everyone speechless. Well, today we have both of them here. Please welcome Lisa Chen and Robert Davidson." Applause filled the studio. Lisa managed a small smile and a wave. Catherine turned to her first. "Lisa, take us back to that night. What was going through your mind when Robert challenged you to play? Lisa took a breath. Here we go. Honestly, I was humiliated, angry. I'd just been publicly mocked for spilling a drop of water, for being just a waitress. And in that moment, I wanted to prove him wrong. I wanted to show him that he didn't know anything about me or my life. And you certainly did that, Catherine said warmly. But what our viewers might not know is your incredible backstory. You gave up a full scholarship at Lincoln School of Music to care for your sick mother. Tell us about that decision. This was the part Lisa had been dreading, the part where her pain became inspiration content, but she'd agreed to do this, so she pushed forward. My mom was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer 3 years ago. The bills were overwhelming. Someone had to work, and I was the only one who could. So I left school, came home, and got a job. Lisa's voice stayed steady. Was it hard? Yes. Did I resent it? Sometimes. But you do what you have to do for the people you love. And now your mother is in remission, correct? Yes, thankfully. She's doing really well. Catherine turned to Robert. Robert, you posted a public apology that's been viewed millions of times. What made you decide to do that? Robert shifted uncomfortably. Because a private apology wasn't enough. I'd humiliated Lisa publicly. I needed to acknowledge my behavior publicly. And honestly, I needed to hold myself accountable. It's easy to apologize in private and then go back to being the same person. Making it public meant I had to actually change. And have you changed? Catherine asked. I'm trying to. I'm in therapy now, working through a lot of the prejudices I grew up with. But I'll be honest, it's a process. I don't get to just declare myself changed and have it be true. I have to prove it through my actions every single day. Catherine nodded approvingly, then looked back at Lisa. Lisa, Robert also paid off your mother's medical debt. That must have been an enormous relief. It was, Lisa said carefully. It changed our lives. I'm grateful for it. Catherine waited, clearly expecting more. When Lisa didn't elaborate, she prompted, And have you forgiven him? Here it was. The question everyone wanted answered. The neat bow everyone wanted tied on this story. Lisa looked directly into the camera. I want to talk about forgiveness. Because I think we have a problem with how we think about it in our culture. Catherine blinked, clearly not expecting this direction. Go on. Everyone wants this to be a simple story. Mean man learns his lesson, apologizes, pays some money, and everything's fine. Happily ever after. But that's not how life works. Lisa's voice grew stronger. Yes, Robert apologized. Yes, he's trying to change, and those things matter. But I don't owe him my forgiveness just because he feels bad about what he did. The studio had gone very quiet. Forgiveness is something I give when I'm ready, Lisa continued. Not when it makes for a good news story. Not when it makes other people comfortable. When I'm ready. And I'm not there yet. Maybe I will be someday. Maybe I won't. But that's my choice to make. Robert was nodding beside her. She's absolutely right. Catherine looked slightly flustered, her script obviously not going as planned. That's very honest, Lisa. Do you think you'll ever be able to forgive him? I don't know, Lisa said simply. But here's what I do know. This whole situation shouldn't have required a viral moment to resolve. I deserved respect when I was just a waitress. Every service worker deserves respect. Not because they might secretly be talented. Not because their backstory is inspiring, but because they're human beings. She turned to look at Robert. You learned to see me as a person because I impressed you. That's better than nothing, but it's not good enough. We need to see everyone's humanity, even when they can't play Rachmaninoff. The audience was completely silent. This wasn't the feel-good redemption story they'd come for. Robert spoke up. Lisa's right. And I think that's the real lesson here. I got credit for my apology. People called me brave. But the truth is, I should have been a decent human being in the first place. You don't get points for apologizing after you hurt someone. You just stop being the worst version of yourself. Catherine was clearly trying to salvage the segment. But you're both here now having this conversation. That's something positive, isn't it? Sure, Lisa said. But I don't want people watching this to think the story is about me and Robert. It's not. It's about how we treat people based on their job, their status, their perceived value to us. And that needs to change. She looked directly into the camera again. If you're watching this and you've ever been rude to a server, or dismissed someone because of where they work, or assume someone wasn't smart because of their job, change that. Don't wait for them to prove they're exceptional. Treat them like they matter right now exactly as they are. The interview continued for a few more minutes, but the energy had shifted. This wasn't the heartwarming story the producers had planned. It was something messier, more complicated, more real. As they wrapped up, Catherine tried one more time to end on an inspiring note. Lisa, you're about to return to music school to complete your degree. You have concerts scheduled across the country. Your dreams are coming true. How does that feel? Lisa smiled, and this time it was genuine. It feels amazing, and terrifying, and surreal. But mostly it feels like I'm finally myself again. Music was always part of who I was. I just forgot for a while. Any advice for young people out there chasing their dreams? Yeah. Sometimes life gets in the way of your dreams. Sometimes you have to put them on hold for reasons beyond your control, and that's okay. That doesn't make you a failure. It makes you someone who's dealing with real life. Lisa paused. But don't give up forever. Hold on to that dream, even if you have to set it down for a while. Because someday, if you're lucky, you might get a second chance. And when you do, grab it with both hands. The cameras stopped rolling. Catherine thanked them both, though she seemed a bit disappointed that the interview hadn't gone exactly as scripted. Lisa didn't care. She'd said what she needed to say. As she removed her microphone, Robert approached her. That was brave. What you said about forgiveness. It was honest, Lisa corrected. Can I ask you something? Robert looked uncertain. Do you think I'll ever be able to make this right? Truly right? Lisa considered the question. I don't know if you can make it right. You can't undo the hurt, but you can do better going forward. You can treat people with respect. You can use your wealth and influence to help others instead of crushing them. That won't erase what you did, but it might create something good anyway. Robert nodded slowly. I can live with that. Thank you, Lisa. For everything. For the music, for the honesty, for not letting me off easy. You're welcome. And Robert? I hope you really do change. Not for me. Not for your image. For yourself. I'm trying. Every day I'm trying. They parted ways outside the studio. Lisa had a feeling she wouldn't see Robert again. At least not for a long time. And that was okay. His journey was his own. Hers was hers. 3 months later, Lisa stood backstage at Lincoln School of Music waiting to go on for her senior recital. She was back in school, balancing classes with her regular performances at the Grand Meridian. The record label had released her first album, a collection of classical pieces that had debuted at #1 on the classical music charts. Life was busy, overwhelming sometimes, but it was hers. Through the curtain, she could hear the auditorium filling up. This was a bigger venue than the school usually used for student recitals, but they'd had to accommodate the crowd. Tickets had sold out in minutes,